Hi everybody, and welcome to this session, which is part of our very first Virtual CPD Summer School. My name is Claire Scott. I'm from the CPD unit, and I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to be with us today. I hope you find the session really interesting. A couple of quick housekeeping things. Please use the chat function if you have any technical issues, and the Q&A if you have any questions for Simon. We're all working from home, so please bear with us if we have any interruptions from small children or Wi-Fi issues or anything like that. We're doing the best we can and working hard to make sure everything runs smoothly. We'll keep an eye on questions and answer them at the end. So that's enough from me, and I'm delighted to welcome your presenter for this session, Simon Newsam, who's one of our CPD tutors. Thanks, Simon.
Thanks, Claire. Okay, let me just share this with you. Okay. There we go. Right, hello everyone, welcome to How to Write Online Content That Sells. Webinar organised by Cardiff University's CPD unit, as you've just seen. And as the name suggests, this is really all about providing content that actually is purposed for selling. A little bit about me first of all. My name's Simon Newsam. I'm a journalist by trade. I did a lot of my work in public relations. digital marketing, also training. I normally run a few of the training courses for the CPD unit, as Claire just said. Writing for the web, digital marketing, both the intro and advanced courses, and also business writing skills courses. This course today is really got a foothold in each of these courses. I'll run through, first of all, what we're going to cover so you can get a feel for where we're going with it. There we are. We'll be looking, as the title suggests, it's all about online content, but a lot of what we're looking at also applies to offline content too. It's also focused on the written word, but once again, a lot of the points that arise will apply to other forms of content, from pictures to videos and infographics, audio files, and we'll touch base with them as we go through too. And obviously there's a big difference between how you'd write a blog post and a tweet, for instance, but many of the principles are the same, and we'll also kind of consider which channels are best for you to use in your marketing approach. More specifically, we'll be looking at the SEO, that's search engine optimization, and keyword research. I'll be introducing you to sales funnels. Some of you obviously all know what that is already, but I'll keep referring to them because they're quite useful things in a course like this. We'll be looking at the presentation of information as well. We'll be covering the copywriter's mantra and tips for persuasive writing. Some of you were on the course yesterday that I ran on business writing skills in a nutshell. Some of this will overlap with that, but it's very brief overlapping, so don't think you're going to be going through the same content twice. Let's start at the basics though, which is the same point as we started at yesterday. We need to establish what we're trying to achieve. And to do that, we need to be able to answer these three questions. Who are you writing for? What do you need to tell them? And how do you want them to react? Now, I'm going to do this differently from yesterday. We're going to pick up on each one of these as we go along. Okay, so starting off, what are you trying to achieve? Who are you writing for? Put it another way, who are your customers? When we're actually selling something, that's what the way we should think of them. You can call them customers or potential customers or prospects. Different people have different terms for them. The better you know and understand them, the more successful your communication is going to be. You can always ask questions of them, find out about them, do research before you start, build up a picture. You might want to know some of these kind of things, their age, gender, education, what their background is, are they in relationships, how much time they've got. If you've got children, those of you who have will know you've got less time. You may think, well, where on earth am I going to get that from? How am I going to find that out? But you'll be surprised how much you already know just by understanding what the product or service you're trying to sell to them is. For example, if you were trying to sell a holiday in the Cretan resort of Malia, heavily favoured by stag and hen parties, you would probably be looking at this kind of background. Young adults, both male and female, various degrees of education, interest in partying, getting drunk, having a good time. Generally, you'd think they're probably in work because they've obviously been able to afford to go on holiday. They've obviously got plenty of time on their hands. Relationships, you better skate over that one, I think, in Malia. They're all single for the purpose of the holiday, I think is what we're saying. And have they any children? Oh, no, definitely not. Compare that then with another holiday, a romantic retreat in Cornwall. Who's going to go on that? Well, young couples, empty nesters, those who have had families and children have left home, men and women, different relationships, education. Generally, you could probably say they're better educated. They've got more selective interests like walking and countryside and food. You can almost kind of imagine them. You're building up a picture of them already, can't you? Are they in work? Well, they may well be in work. They may even be retired. But money isn't an object for them. Time, more time than if they were raising children again. and if they have got children, they're probably grown-up children and they won't be present on the holiday. So you can see how those two sets of information differ from one another, but they're both very tangible. They're things that you can work out and build up a picture of your target audience. This is who you're writing for. There's other things you can do as well, which we touch base on in fact, we do more than touch base on them. We have a good look at them in a couple of the courses that we run, the full day courses, such as creating personas. These are fictitious characters that you kind of work through, just as I have here, and kind of fill in the blanks. You even give them a name and give them a photograph, and they're a very useful reference point to you when you come to actually write things. You say, well, what would my persona Tim be interested in? How would he react to this? What's he looking for? It puts some flesh on the bones, you know, and it really kind of helps you to understand what you're trying to achieve, how you're best going to try and achieve it, what you're going to say to them. Once you've got that kind of information and you've stepped into the shoes of your customers, you can probably understand well as which channels you're going to communicate with them through. Is it email? Is it text? Is it Facebook? Is it Snapchat? You know, all of these things you can decide, and you can actually work out quite easily which of those channels your target audience is most active in. Okay, I'm going to move on from there. Let's have a look at the second point, what we need to tell them. Now, this is going to vary, and the reason it's going to vary is because in a lot of the things that we sell, there is a sales cycle, and that's quite nicely represented by this thing, a sales funnel. Some of you will have come across this already, I'm sure, but bear with me. I'm going to keep referring to it as we go through. Not all content is about the final transaction. It's not all about selling. It's moving people through the process of a sale. Whatever you're selling or buying, there are different steps that you go through, and often you need to take your potential customers or prospects to that next stage, and the messages you use there are going to vary considerably. So you start off at the stage where you're making them aware of you. It might be brand awareness, it might be awareness of you, the individual, or the product or the service that you're providing. Then you get them interested in it to the point where they're thinking that might be useful for us. What's everyone else got out there? At this stage, they haven't made up their minds what they're going to do, whether they're going to buy yours or whether they're going to go and look at your competitors, see what they're doing. So really what you're trying to do at that stage is establish yourself as the best option, the authority. There's lots of things that you can do there with content to give you that kind of credibility. The third stage there, the decision stage, this is where the customer actually decides what they're going to do, whether they're going to buy from you or one of your competitors. The way you can line content up to them at this stage is to just give them that little extra incentive, give them the total confidence in you, but also maybe give them discounts, special offers. This is a routine way of doing things on the web. I'm sure you've all seen it before, either selling things yourself or just as customers who are buying things. Quite often, if you hold off a purchase, they come back to you, and the seller comes back to you and says, "Oh, we'll give you a discount." And a lot of skillful buyers, skillful customers, willfully do that. And the last point there is where they buy. Congratulations, you've made the sale, but it's not over. It's never over, because it's now all about customer retention. You want to cement your relationship, make sure they're happy. What else might they be interested in? You know, if you've just sold them a cutlery set, knives and forks, maybe they want to buy spoons as well. You want to turn your sale into another and another, turn them into loyal customers. So you can see the sort of content that you're generating and the messages you're putting out are going to vary at different stages of this sales cycle. I recommend these sales funnels, actually. They're quite useful if you're actually trying to work out what messages you're going to put out where and when. And this one's from hellobar.com, who also write a good blog post on how to create one. That's hellobar.com. They do a good blog post on how to create them. I can suggest having a good read of their blog and then seeing what you can do. Alternatively, you can just go onto Google and Google sales funnels, and you'll see hundreds of different sorts come up. This is a very generic, basic one, which most of them follow these steps, but some of them are far more involved, far more intricate, and they can give you other ideas of what your customer's journey is from sort of becoming aware of you to actually buying something. A couple of other points on sales funnel. Just a key point to when you're selling things, it's easier to sell things to people you already know, to people who are already your customers. So people who have already reached this last point in the sales cycle and gone through it. You know, it's easier to sell to them than it is to sell to people who don't know you. Okay, so bear that in mind. And one other key point on there: if you're selling something to the general public, to consumers, you have probably a very quick sales cycle. They may jump from awareness to sale in a matter of seconds or minutes. If you're selling something else, like say a farmer, somebody selling tractors to a farmer, you can have a much longer sales cycle. There'll be far more points of contact through the process before they actually make the sale. And they may, I don't know how long a tractor lasts for, 7 years or something like that, or 10 years. You know, you may not sell another one to them for 10 years, but you still want to kind of keep them as your loyal customer. And you tune what you're going to write to them and what messages you're going to put to them at different stages of the cycle. Okay. Let's move on from sales funnels, and we'll get into some of the nitty-gritty now. Search engine optimization. This is something that obviously applies online. I'm not going to go into in great depth. We do in the one-day courses, but you can do a whole one-day course on this if you wanted to. What I'll do here is I'll explain what it is, and then we'll actually come back to it later in this session and deal with the nitty-gritty of it. So to give you a brief overview, what we're trying to do with search engine optimization is make sure your copy, which is online, is found by your target audience when they search online. So you're making sure that search engines pick it up and think highly of it and place it high in the search results. The way you do this is by using keywords, and we call them keywords. Here's an example. If you were selling chocolate bars or making chocolate bars or whatever, you might have simple keywords like chocolate bar, milk chocolate. Okay. Obviously, when they're kind of very broad terms like that, you're competing with all the other chocolate bar makers and all the other different types of chocolate bar. So it's very competitive. It means cost of adverts and that kind of thing goes up. You're going to find it harder to get your organic copy highly placed in the search engine results pages because you're competing with so many other people. But if you were doing something which was, say, specifically suitable for vegans with no animal products in, you may be much better off going to the niche term vegan chocolate bar. Okay. First of all, you'll avoid that competition of the massive chocolate bar crowd, most of whom aren't going to be interested in your specialist product. They're not your target audience. Secondly, you'll be connecting to your real audience, the vegan chocolate lovers who may be searching for vegan chocolate bar. So you can think, first of all, chocolate bar, no, we don't want that as a keyword or key term. Milk chocolate, no, they're too broad, too generic. Vegan chocolate bar, yeah. Chocolate bar dairy free, yeah. Chocolate bar no animal products, yeah. You can see where this is going. You're really kind of focusing on your target audience now. And you can go away and you can write your articles and make sure that you've got those keywords and terms in it. One of the things I'm quite frequently asked, and I'm sure that there'll be people there wanting to ask it now, how often do you have to mention these keywords and phrases? We'll come back to this in more detail later on, but to start with, I think what we can probably say is you need to write it so that it's not too repetitive. If you can get your keyword vegan chocolate bar, get that into the heading, that's good, because it tells people, the search engines that is, rather, it tells search engines what that article is about. And if you can mention it a couple of times in, say, 200 words, 250 words or whatever, then that's probably typically what you're looking for. Don't overstate it. Google will probably mark you down for overstating it. Okay. Let's move on. So we're going to come back to keywords and search engine optimization and how we actually apply all of this later on. Okay, this is, and those of you who did this yesterday, the course yesterday with me, you'll be familiar with this. This is the copywriter's mantra: benefits, not features. You know, because you've done your research on your target audiences, what your customers are looking for, what they want. But what you need to do is tell them all about the benefits of your product and services, not its features. What it can do for them is what they're interested in. How can you help them? What are they looking for? Once you understand that, you really do understand your target audience. So going back to our chocolate bar example, I'm feeling hungry now. I wish I hadn't done chocolate bars. Vegan chocolate bars, you would say what they're after is a chocolatey taste, a chocolatey texture, and no animal products. That obviously they're the essentials there. It's got to taste good. It's got to be what they like, but it's also got to have no animal products. But on top of that, you might also think, well, okay, knowing about these people, knowing what they're interested in, they might also be interested in the fact that this is ethically sourced, the fact that we're taking our social responsibility carefully and seriously, and the fact that it's having minimal environmental impact. That's another thing that they may be interested in. So you can sort of build up a bigger picture here and understand exactly what your target audience is after. Here's a couple of really good examples of copy headings and how these people have got inside the mindset of their customers. This is a big change from chocolate bars. This is Volvo cars. Volvo, massively associated with safety as a brand. These headlines, I think they're great, and they'll certainly resonate with their target audience. First one: bodyguards cost less than escorts. Pun on the name of a competitor car there, but there we are. We can see how that shell of a car is going to protect the people inside it. Second one, very clever again: 100 to 0 in 3.2 seconds. That's a play on the kind of frequent car ads that you saw, 0 to 60 in 6 seconds or whatever. This is saying we can stop in 3.2 seconds, even if we were going at 100 miles an hour. And the fact that it says we're going at 100 miles an hour also cleverly gives the impression this is a proper car. It's not a second-rate car. It's not a duffer car. It is fast. It is a serious motor. Okay. And that third one: we design every Volvo to look like this, and there it is, crumpled at the front and crumpled at the rear where it's obviously been shunted. Not a scratch in the compartments in the cabin where you and your family will be sitting. Yeah, so that's a lovely example, really, of how they've got inside the heads of their target audience. Family people, maybe a bit geeky, maybe a bit techno, understand the technology that's going on there and appreciate it. And they've done a first-class job with those ads, getting inside the mindset of their customers. So would they work for a sports car? Definitely not. Here's what Porsche do instead: like your own portable amusement park. Completely different approach. And all that says is fun. That's what their Porsche drivers want, is fun. Maybe image goes in with it as well. Maybe they can be, quite flash, younger people maybe. But, they've done an equally good job. Lovely line: like your own portable amusement park. It says, come and ride this, come and drive this, have fun. Okay, so let's move on. Presentation of information is very important. Okay, we're talking about writing here, but as I said, there's other ways of presenting information. sometimes writing isn't the best one. So if you were to take a graph like this of sales over the high street over a particular time, if you were to try and actually express that in words, crikey, that would take you forever. It would be mind-bogglingly difficult and really difficult to read as well. But look how easy it is to express it as a graph. So think of how you can best express this information. Other things you could do. Graphs and charts, tables, lists, pictures, videos, infograms are very popular these days. You might even think of combining several of these in one particular field of view. So here's an itinerary for a cruise ship. What we've got there, we've got a list essentially, but we've got pictures as well, and we've got a little bit of text just telling us, getting inside the mindset of our customers, telling them why they should go for this, really trying to tempt them. Okay. If a picture's worth 1,000 words, you've all heard that expression, a video is worth even more. You can take that from somebody who makes their living out of the written word. I'm afraid I come off second best to videos and photographs so often. But you can use these things to actually, videos very, very effectively to establish your authority, to show people how to do things. If you go and buy an IKEA bookcase now, you'll find that the instructions are there with diagrams, but you can go online and there'll be a video there showing you how to actually put this thing together. It's quite a regular way of doing these things now. If you just go and search for it on Google, it will be there. They don't rely on Oscar-winning cinematography or anything like that. Mobile phones, basic and free editing kits are all you need. Some of the tools have already got editing in place for you. Otherwise, you can try Blender, Shortcut, Lightbox, DaVinci Resolve. These are the sorts of free tools that come to mind. And there's a few more sort of technical tools. Just go and have a look at it and see what suits you best. And if you think you need to buy one, then buy one. But there are free ones out there. Moving beyond video, each of these presentation techniques that we just mentioned earlier, they're always good ways of getting a lot of information across in an easily accessible way. Use them wisely, but remember, too much detail makes it harder to grasp. So an important message here, you've probably heard it before, keep it simple, stupid, kiss. Just keep it simple. This kind of approach, though, is particularly useful. We go back to our sales funnel. I won't move it back now. If you go back to the sales funnel and just think of how we started off with making awareness and then actually getting people interested, this is the second stage, getting people interested. This is where you can provide them with a lot of information very easily. Okay, and that's where I would really encourage you to think of using these tools. Okay, the third stage involves a bit more than that, though. The third stage of actually getting them to make a decision. You've got to engage with them and you've got to persuade them. You've got to engage with them all the way through, really. But persuasion is what we're looking for here. So this is how we turn readers into customers. Any thoughts on how we might do that? Well, that was, in fact, one of the things that you could do. You can ask questions of them. Once you've engaged them, asking questions is a very good way of keeping them engaged. And it's a trick worth remembering. Ask a question of them in your written copy. You'll get a good response. They feel like you're actually, talking to them. This second point here, writing for humans, not spiders. This is going back now to the SEO side of things, where we looked at what we needed to do in terms of getting our keywords in there and how often we could use keywords in a piece of copy and where we could use them. What you're really doing here is you're addressing the needs of Google, but Google is trying to address the needs of its users, and users are human beings. So what you really need to be doing here is writing for human beings. spiders that I mentioned here are little bits of code that Google sends out to look at your web pages and your web copy and decide what that's about and rate it, decide where it should appear in the, where it should be ranked in the search results. Should it be top of the search page, top of the first search page, or halfway down the second page for that particular search term? People have tried periodically, they still try, to actually kind of get the better of Google by tricking it. It's essentially smarter than we are, so don't waste your time. Write for your readers, and if you write something useful, that's genuinely useful and well written, you will be ranked well by Google. There's other things to it than that, but when we get into those in the full day course that we do, how to make sure your website's actually working properly, and but what we're going to concern ourselves here is with is the copy, the content. So write for humans, write for the people who are going to be the end users, the readers. If you use keywords too frequently, which is one of the big clangers, Google will switch off. It's not easy to read the same words and phrases again and again and again. And if I keep mentioning spiders in this line and spiders in the next line and spiders in the line after that, you'd understand how you can easily kind of slows people down in their reading, and it isn't user friendly. It's not easy to read. So don't do it. Just write naturally. Yeah, and if you can get the word in the headline, as I said, or in subheads as well. Keywords in headlines and subheads will help Google understand what it's about. Any word you put in a headline, Google will understand it's important. That's what this is about. Telling stories is another good way of keeping people engaged. People like stories. Make your points throughout the tale, your key messages, of course, but they want to know how stories end, so they're probably going to stay with you when you do that. Our vegan chocolate bar maker, actually, accidentally vegan chocolate was what it was called. He was trying to make a chocolate spread, a vegan chocolate spread, and got it wrong. It obviously set too hard, but he decided it was delicious, and the rest is history, as they say. And that's a story that he's used to tell, whether it's real or not, I don't know. But, that's a story that he's used to tell in his marketing activity. Fourth point there, start strongly. I say start fast. Yeah. Did you know that chocolate bars can be good for you and good for the planet? It's a nice kind of question to start with as well, and which obviously it grips people. Once you've made a statement like this, you've got them interested, but you can then go on and explain why you're saying that. You've got to explain it. You can't just leave them hanging in the air there. So you can say just the mere smell of chocolate can stimulate your immune system. You can talk to them about ethical farming that you're involved with, and relate both of them to your vegan chocolate bar. But it's a good, fast start, and it avoids any kind of mentions of the name of the product or anything like that, which will slow things down. The name of the company. Really get in there quickly. Get them with something that's interesting. The fifth point we use there is a continuation of that. Get them to agree with you. That's important. When you get people to agree with you, you've got them on your side straight away. Win approval quickly, I said here. I love chocolate, but I wish I could buy some that didn't contain any animal products. And suddenly they're agreeing with you. I wish I could buy some too. You've got them hooked, you've got them engaged. They're liking you already, even though you haven't said much. Now you can move it along with this. Vegan chocoholics are all with you. Another very important point there, positive statements. Positive statements sell, negative ones don't. So don't use rat poison to deal with your rodent problem. Use our new ratto trap instead. That's a negative statement. That's not going to sell much. But if you were to say, new ratto trap solves your rodent problem quickly while protecting other wildlife, that's a very positive statement. You've sold one. Ratto trap. Where did I think of that one from? Be authentic, though. That's another important point here. the guy who sold the chocolate bars, the vegan chocolate bars, the accidentally vegan chocolate, he told a story where he had failures in it. He was trying to make this chocolate spread and it didn't work, and he kept on trying and got it wrong and kept on making mistakes. Then he finally got it right. So he shared his story, the warts and all of it, and people like that. They trust him more because he sort of admitted, well, didn't get it right first time. It's very important. If you can keep that authenticity there, you'll help keep people on board. If it sounds too good to be true, people will start doubting you. Okay. Next point, very important again, empathize. Truck drivers, do you know what it's like to get back to the depot at the end of a long, hard shift, only to realize you've still got to manually download all that data from your tachograph? This one is a piece of copy for a system that automatically downloads data from trucks' tachographs, and it saves the driver or the fleet manager 15-20 minutes at the end of every shift, something that they could really appreciate, something that they really enjoy. But you're showing there that you know what their problem is, you understand what the issues are, you understand what they need, so you're getting them interested. Okay, next point. Keep it tight. Oops, we'll stick on this one for the moment. Keep it tight, keep them engaged, keep it succinct. We've already mentioned the acronym KISS, keep it simple, stupid. That's what we're after. If you start to get too descriptive with your copy, this one's pushing it a little bit, this truck driver one. If you start to get too descriptive with your copy, people aren't going to like it. My issue with this first one, whilst I think is quite good, you're showing a lot of empathy there, we haven't really got to the product yet. We're kind of 4 lines into it. The final point there is to not preach, lead people in the direction you want them to go in. So if you love chocolate and care about the state of the planet, this is the only chocolate bar for you, that's preaching. But if you were to say, not only do we think it tastes great, but it's also kinder to the environment. I missed a word out there, sorry. It's also kinder to the environment. That's a nice, positive message. It's a nice kind of leading them to that conclusion rather than telling them that that's what they've got to think. Okay, moving on, we're coming up to the last part of this session now. So if you're thinking of any questions, I'm giving you an early nudge here before we go into this last part. If you've got any questions, it'd be a good idea to put them out there now, and Claire and Jess will deal with them and present them to me at the end. And we'll answer as many as we can do. But the one thing we haven't done yet is address that final point that we started off with. We had these 3 points, remember. How do you want people to react? And this is vital. You know, you can take them all the way through the sales stage, but if you lose them at this stage, you still haven't made a sale. So you need to give them a little nudge. Now, I've just finished that last part off saying don't preach, but in fact, at times you've got to kind of take them by the hand and just give them a nudge. And it's safe to do it at this point because you've convinced them. That's what you're saying to yourself. I've convinced them. I've got them to make the decision. That was the 3rd stage in that sales funnel. Now it's all about getting them to make the sale and complete the sale. So calls to action is what we call this. CTAs are often abbreviated as, and you can see these are all the sorts of things that are calling people to action at different stages. You have these at different stages of the sales funnel. It's not all just about the end, but the call to action, add to the cart, download now, buy now, all of these things are what we're looking for. If you take a look at those, you'll see that they are always prominent. They're big, they're bold. The bigger and the bolder, the better, is a good rule of thumb. We know about this thing, though. We're not just kind of guessing at these. We've been doing this with email marketing for years, and since the internet's come along, we're able to, you know, digitally understand what works and what doesn't work in our written work like this. So this isn't just guesswork. This is based on hard statistics and trial and error. Ideally, calls to action should be permanently visible while your readers or visitors are looking at your work. if you've written a longer piece and the CTA might have been at the top of the screen, if you've written a longer piece and you scroll down and that's lost, then maybe you need to think about having another one halfway down, or even get one of your web developers, if you've got those people handy, get your web developer to make one of those floaty devices, so the call to action always stays at the top of your screen as people scroll. Don't be afraid of repeating the call to action. It's another way of making it permanently visible, is just to have it there more than once. Key to them is they are always simple, direct messages, so they are clear. Okay. And obviously we're talking about online content here, so use the benefits of being online. Just be aware, I'm sure everyone is aware of the fact that, you know, if you're asking them to click on a button and buy now, that's fine. If you're asking them to chat now, that's fine. But if you're asking them to make a phone call, is somebody going to be there to take that call? Don't ask them to make a phone call during office hours, because that might not be when they're looking at it. They may have forgotten tomorrow. And as for writing a letter, forget it. You know, this is online. Use the benefits of being online. A couple more things you can do is speak to them directly, talk about you and we. They're kind of keys to you know, calls to action and making it work. And try introducing some urgency. You've all seen these ads that come up, or buttons that come up and say, if you buy in the next hour, we'll give you a 20% discount or something like that. Those are putting pressure on you to actually kind of make that sale. And they work. They work. They're proven to work. You know, it's quite easy and quite safe thing to do, and quite responsible too. Okay, so that's about the end of this session. I'll take any questions in a moment. Thanks for attending. I hope it's been of use to you. And if you want to expand more on what we've covered, take a look at our courses. Once it's safe to go back, we shall. And I'm sure my colleagues will let you know when that is. Okay, thanks.
Thanks. With what you did today as well. So and just to let everybody know, we'll be sending recordings of all these sessions to you.
Claire, I think you've frozen ever so slightly there. Claire, you've frozen ever so slightly there, so I'm just going to let you get back on the internet. We have had some questions come in the meantime, Simon. So let me pose a couple of those to you. Do you have any tips for writing on screen, specifically for an e-magazine, and how this would differ from print copy?
Oh, yeah, we do. Well, this is the Writing for the Web course that we run in normal times. Yeah, writing on screen, there are lots of different things that you can do, and there are things that you can do differently. You still need to write for people, but people do read differently on screen from the way that they read in print. People tend to skim over a screen a bit more. So there's things you can do, like highlighting words in bold that you really want to stand out. Highlight them in bold, and people will latch onto those. It'll keep them gripped further down to the bottom of the page as well. Space your copy out. Don't cram it all together. Those of you who attended the course yesterday will know that's important. Give people a chance to actually, you know, lots of short questions, lots of short sentences, lots of short paragraphs. That helps people, keep people engaged. Use diagrams, use all the tools that we've talked about today to break the copy up and keep people engaged. And use the power of the internet. Use links rather than overwhelm them with copy on one page. If you think people are going to scan through this and they aren't going to read the whole thing, give them the option of going and getting further information from another resource online somewhere. We do cover, you know, we do that in a whole day normally. So there's a fairly kind of superficial overview there.
That's great. Thank you, Simon. Okay, I have another one here. Is it a good thing to indirectly compare your product with your competitors in the advertisement, especially when you're just starting up business?
It depends. There's lots of different strategies here. Most of the people I work with and have worked with in the past would avoid that. you can end up picking fights with people. But if you are really convinced and you think your product can go head to head with these people who are already presumably established, that's very bold. But if you really think you've got a product that will knock theirs out of the park, then why not have a go? Most people try and avoid doing that, though, and they even go to the point, we do this on the digital marketing courses, they even go to the point of finding out what their competitors' keywords are. If their competitors are established, they'll be using those keywords and they'll have been using them for a long time. And it will be quite hard for you as a startup business to go head to head with them using the same keywords. So we look at some tools which actually show you how to find out what keywords your competitors are using in all their different online footprint. And you have options then of avoiding them or going head to head with them. Most people will try and avoid them, though.
Great, okay, and I have a final question here, which is an SEO-based question. Is there a danger with SEO that by choosing alternative word choices, you can misrepresent or over-embellish your message? How should you prepare to select word choices?
Okay, you typically would only use, say you were writing an article, say of 250 words. Ideally, you want to have one keyword or one key phrase. When we talk about keywords, we mean phrases as well. So you'd really only want one keyword per article. If you've got two, that's fine. But you've got to make sure that the article is about both of those things. If you start putting more and more keywords in there, you're diluting the article effectively. You're dividing Google's attention. They're saying, there's an example we use on the course about an article about the running speed of a cheetah. And if you write an article about the running speed of a cheetah, your key phrase might be running speed of cheetah. But if you start then comparing it with the running speed of an ostrich, you've changed the nature of the article. So you're not writing about the running speed of an ostrich, cheetah anymore. You're writing about the running speed of a cheetah compared with an ostrich. It's changed. So yeah, you really only want to have one set of keywords per article, or two at the most. And it's important, and we look at this again on the courses, it's important to actually not inadvertently introduce other keywords to those articles. It's quite a challenge sometimes, and you've got to go about this methodically.
Yep. Okay, that's great. Thank you so much, Simon. Thanks once again for everyone being here today. It's been a really interesting and informative session, so thank you for that, Simon. As Claire mentioned, we'll be sharing the recordings for all of our summer school sessions at the end of the summer school programme. So we hope you enjoyed today's session and you have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Claire.